G'day guys, and welcome back to the last video in this series. In the last video we talked a bit about your employment training and how you need to behave whilst you're there. In this video we're going to talk about the next phase, about being sent to your first unit. Now, once again, this will be more specific to being sent to an infantry battalion, but I guarantee you, most of these points will apply to any unit that you get posted to. First one I want to cover off on is, don't be a lid. But what's a lid? To sum it up simply, a lid is a new person. Now, in other corps, they can be called other things like jubes or newbies, but a lid is the most common one and is widely used throughout the infantry. The term lid has had a few different definitions over time, but the meaning is still the same. Low intelligence digger, live-in digger, or the story of Billy Kid the Lid from the old Vietnam days. If being a lid is new, how do I not be a lid? Good question, because you can't avoid being new. Being a lid is hard to explain in words. It's more of something you'll have to experience in a unit. But basically, there are lid mistakes, and then there are mistakes you can make because you're new. But if you've been in the unit for a while and do something wrong, you'll most likely be reverted back to lid status. For example, a lid mistake would not be saluting an officer on base. A lid mistake for new and old diggers. Whereas walking on the unit's emblem at the boozer is a mistake, maybe forgivable to lids who didn't know, but completely unforgivable to those who do know. Which leads into my next point. Learn who the CO and RSM are, and learn about your unit's history. It would also pay to become familiar with all the OCs and CSMs in the unit so you don't get caught out not knowing who someone is. When you first rock up, you generally will always have this one dude who always tries to make friends with the new guys. No one really knows why, but nonetheless, don't be best mates with the first person you meet. Now, I'm not saying completely shun them, just take them with a pinch of salt and don't take their word for gospel. This part is more specific for riflemen, so click here to skip if you're not planning to be a grunt, or listen in anyways, you might learn something. Learn what support courses you want to do. There are a number available, such as mortars, heavy weapons, DFSW, signals, and recon snipers platoon. Also, for some battalions, you might have vehicles, so being driver called is considered an advancement in the specialist stream. Now, a bit about the specialities. Mortars are the blokes that drop bombs on the enemy with their tubes from kilometers away. They have a relatively cruisy gig and generally don't pack much anywhere, or if they do, it's like a maximum of 5 kilometers. DFSW, or heavy weapons, are kind of split up into two, being heavy weapons and anti-armor. They're responsible for the big bang sticks of the battalion, being your sustained fire machine guns, the Mag 58 and the 50 cal, as well as having majority of the 84mm rocket launchers and Javelin missiles. They're also moving to getting the 40mm automatic grenade launcher in their platoon, which is pretty sick. Now, depending on what battalion you're at, depends on whether you'll be mounted in vehicles or not. Generally, DFSW will always have vehicles, but some units are pretty stingy when it comes to it. Signals platoon is a vital platoon within the battalion, yet always gets paid out as being where all the weirdos go. Although this may be true, it's usually home to the most technically minded soldiers in the battalion, and the capability they provide is critical to the success of all missions. Because if you have no comms between each other, life would be so much harder, and the SIGs are responsible for prepping radios and manning command posts, etc. There's a saying that goes, no comms, no bombs. Now we have Recon Snipers platoon, and they're split up into two once again, obviously being Recon and Snipers. Recon is home to some of the most switched and fit diggers the battalion has to offer. It's extremely difficult to get into because the criteria for the diggers they want is very specific, so you may end up doing the course, but getting posted to the platoon is completely different again. Although Recon have a pretty cool job, it's probably the one with the most suck. You will carry some of the heaviest packs you will ever carry in your life without a vehicle. You will carry them for kilometers, walking at the slowest pace you've ever walked in your life to not make a sound. You'll be consistently scanning your arcs, watching your back, meaning you have to be mentally alert 100% whilst patrolling, regardless of not sleeping for 2 days. You'll not only be looking out for enemy, you'll be memorizing the terrain. Where are the rivers? Did you cross any roads? Could tanks drive in that soft soil? All whilst trying not to make a single sound, carrying a heavy ass load on your back. The physical and mental fatigue quickly builds up. But once you get to your objective, you'll be sneaking around in your ghillie suit because that's when your job begins. Once again, leaving no trace, and I mean no trace. If you need to go to the toilet, you'll be doing it in a bag to take with you. Making no noise, you'll be searching for enemy dispositions and strength, but you will not engage. If you shoot the enemy, your mission has failed. The only time you shoot is when you're shot at, and if you're shot at, that means the enemy's found you, meaning your stealthy recon operation is compromised. That's one of the main differences between recon and snipers. Snipers will go into what they call as a hide, set up their long rifle, and engage a target at long distance if required, and then sneak back out again. Now, that's a pretty cool gig without all the bullshit. However, when I went through it, you used to have to do recon as a prerequisite before attempting your sniper course, as the fundamentals of patrolling and hiding aren't covered off in the sniper course. It's more of a shooting course. It's expected that you already have that high level of field discipline from your recon course. Now, that's why recon and snipers are in the same platoon, because there aren't that many of them, yet they offer a similar capability and work very well with each other because they all have similar mindsets. Most of the soldiers from the battalion that attempt special forces selection will come from recon snipers platoon too. And then finally, you have your drivers courses, which will progress into crew commanders courses later on, allowing you to be qualified to drive the battalion's armored vehicles. Now that you know a little bit more about each support course, you'll need to know which one you want so that when you have your interview with your platoon commander, you can express your interest for a certain platoon. The next point I want to cover off is don't be unkeen, and by that I mean don't become jaded. I guarantee you, majority of the senior diggers at your unit will be very dissatisfied with their job. But remember what I said earlier in the series, how they probably didn't do their research and now they're just left with negativity blinding them from the positives? That's the diggers I'm talking about, and it's very hard not to lower yourself to their level. Always maintain a positive attitude and be keen. Which leads into my next point. Don't be too keen. In the army, we call this being green. And when I say don't be too green so that everyone sees you're green. What I mean by that is, be keen for your job, but don't force it on everyone around you. Give them an example to work towards of what they want to be. It's just like religion. People will follow it if they think it's right. Not because you go door knocking, forcing it down people's throats. Be keen in your own time, but that doesn't mean going out clubbing on the weekend wearing your G-Shock and sporting the classic jarhead haircut. That would be known as a lid mistake. Be keen enough that you're willing to train in your own time and you're willing to conduct basic serviceability of your own equipment. Be keen enough that you're willing enough to go on courses and field exes. Just don't be that person trying to get your platoon at the back to do push-ups at lunchtime with you. Do that yourself and people will see you do it and they'll follow along. Which leads into my next point. Don't be unfit. You'll see those same diggers I was talking about just fall by the wayside with their fitness because they're so over their job. And they're the ones who are struggling every morning at PT, coming dead last or even worse, pretending to be injured or ill just to get out of it. And then they go and have a meat pie and Red Bull for breakfast. Don't turn into one of those guys. They're called sacks for a reason. Like I said, it's hard not to take that easy path, but you'll get a reputation for being a bag. So maintain your fitness in your own time. You'll be given plenty of opportunity whilst you're on barracks, and I guarantee you there will be a highly equipped gym on your base. Use it and don't become lazy, because if you become lazy, you'll become what we call a linger or a malingerer, which basically means you fake injuries to get out of physical activity or field. People know when you're doing it, so they will know you're a sack. And because you get to stay at home whilst all your mates go out field, they have to pick up your slack. Which leads me on to my next point. Don't be a jack, or as we say in the army, don't go jacking your mates. Now, that might not sound like exactly what it means, but basically just don't be lazy so your mates have to pick up your slack. Like I said earlier in the series, you work as a team, and if one person becomes lazy, the rest of the team has to pick up that slack. Now, going jack on your mates could happen a few different times. Being unfit is one of them, because when you're out in the field or on deployment, you might not be able to carry as much, run as far, or fight as long. Because when you're out in the field or on deployment, you might not be able to carry as much or run as far or fight as long. Hell, worst case scenario, your best mate could be shot and you're the only one that can drag him out of there. But you're too damn fat to save his life because you spent months making lazy decisions like not training, pretending to be injured, and eating like shit. So don't go jacking your mates. There's a link here and down below as to why combat fitness is so important. Another example of going jacking your mates is being that guy who always gets their hands on rations first and takes all the good ones for themselves and leaves the shit ones for the others. Let everyone know the food's there and divvy it up equally. There are thousands of examples of going jacking your mates, so plainly, just don't be lazy and don't put yourself before the team. Which leads me on to my next point, bonding with your new section. Now, what I mean by that is get to know who the new blokes are that you're going to be working with. Don't be that guy who always has to hold the hands of the guys you marched in with. Get out there and get to know your section, platoon, company, because when sporties or field exes come up, into platoon or company rivalry is huge, and it always pays off to know who's on your side. Which leads me on to my next point, be one of the boys. Being a female, this might be hard to understand, but majority of the defense force is a male environment, so to seclude yourself from everyone would make the whole team ineffective. Now, this goes both ways. If you're female, make sure you hang out with the boys and get to know them. If you're a male, don't exclude the females from things the boys would do. You're all on the same team here as brothers and sisters, and you need to be able to form those bonds with each other. My next point is kind of similar, but treat everyone with respect. Now, when I say this, I'm more directed at those becoming grunts. You need to treat your support staff with respect. I'm talking about your QEs, your clerks, cooks, and your drivers here. They can make your time on your unit very unpleasant if you're rude to them. Treat them as you would anyone else in your team. And if you are one of those support staff, treat your parent unit corps with respect too. Otherwise, they can deliver a bad name for yourself, and that will spread very quickly throughout wider army. So when you get posted out after your 3 years, you'll most likely already have a reputation at your next unit before you even get there. So respect everyone. Saying that, there's nothing wrong with a bit of military banter, so long as it doesn't get out of hand and people don't take it too seriously, it's completely harmless. Which kind of leads me on to my next point about gobbing off. Don't gob off. You are new to the unit and you are still learning. Be humble and keep quiet whilst you learn the way things work. There's nothing worse than a new bloke coming into the workplace and trying to big dog themselves straight away. In old school army, you get taken at the back and given 2 hooks. And I'm not talking about promotion, I'm talking about a left and a right. You know what else will get you into shit? Being late. It's such a simple thing, but it's so critical in any military. Although it's only on the barracks, the principle is still the same. Do you lack the discipline to adhere to simple timings in a relaxed, controlled environment? What happens when you're on deployment and rounds are flying over your head and you're not allowed to move until exactly 15 seconds past 10:02? Are you going to be able to sit there and soak up that enemy fire until then? Or do you lack the discipline to do so? Timings. That's why they're so important. Now, one of the last points I want to cover off is don't spend $1 million on buying new kit. Although you may be green as hell, you're still new to the unit. You don't really know what's good to buy or where, although you can check out some of my videos to help you out. You'll need to know what you're even allowed to use. Although there is a CDF's directive, some units will have their own regulations of what you can and cannot use. That's why it's good to wait a few weeks or months before you go out and buy stuff, so that if the unit is going to issue with new equipment, they can. And it also gives you time to find out what you're actually allowed to use. If you're confused by what I mean, for example, don't go out and buy a $300 cold weather jacket because you might not be able to wear it just simply because it's the wrong camouflage pattern and it doesn't fall into the uniformity of the rest of the troops. You might even get issued a better cold weather jacket for free that you can actually use. Now, one of the last points I want to leave you with, and this is probably more pertinent to the future or current grunts watching this, but it's applicable to all. Always aspire for Special Forces selection. It's a great goal to consistently work towards, and it will always push you in the right direction of being a better all-round soldier. Special Forces operators aren't some kind of gods that you'll never get to work with. They're brilliant at the basics because they've always consistently strived to be better, and then once they've mastered those basics, they move on to more complicated drills. Operators all started somewhere, and you may as well start your journey sooner rather than later. So that pretty much sums up the series, guys. I hope you found it informative and educational, and I hope I've really inspired some of you to enlist and set you on the right track once you've joined up. Because to fix the small problems like the lid mistakes and the unfit soldiers starts with preventing the problem, and that is you guys. Providing you guys with correct information to help shape your attitude to be more positive. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions, queries, or doubtful points, please leave a comment down below and I'll answer them when I can. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.